The mother of a hiker missing in Boulder says they are desperate to find her son. 27-year-old Josh Hall has been missing for 10 days. This week, they found Hall's dog, Happy, who was with Hall as he hiked near the Continental Divide. The dog was found about 15 miles away on the Peak-to-Peak highway. Josh's mom says Happy is doing well, despite losing about 15 pounds during his ordeal. Search crews continue to look for Hall during breaks in winter weather conditions.
Hello folks, and welcome back to another case study where I talk about and analyze some of the strangest state and national park missing person cases out there. In this segment, I'll be covering the mysterious disappearance of a 27-year-old hiker and his dog who went missing in February of 2021. Despite weeks of intense search and rescue efforts by numerous organizations, no trace of him has been found. Now, before we begin, this case mirrors another somewhat similar disappearance that occurred in September of 2020, where a 37-year-old hiker, Brendan Napon, and his dog went missing during their hike inside the Snow Lake Trailhead in Washington. But we'll cover more on this case another time. Tonight, we'll be covering the case of Josh Hall and his dog Happy, whom went missing during their hike inside Hesse Trailhead of Boulder County, Colorado. On February 3rd of 2021, at around 10:30 a.m., the two set out on the trail for a short day hike, but when they failed to return later that day, his family called authorities after they grew concerned as Josh would normally check in with them. Almost immediately, the Boulder County Sheriff's Office arrived at the trailhead and located his parked and undisturbed vehicle. They would then search several nearby cabins and even a few mine shafts in the area. But when efforts produced no other results, they began to enlist the help from numerous organizations, thus kicking off one of the largest and most intense and extensive searches the area has ever seen. But before we dive into the details, I'm going to talk about the area where the two went missing, just to give you an idea of what both Josh and the searchers were up against. According to alltrails.com, Hesse Trail is a 2.7-mile, heavily traveled out-and-back trail located near Nederland, Colorado, that features a lake and is rated as a moderate hike. Accessible all year round, it's known for its hiking, camping, snowshoeing, and backpacking. Dogs are also allowed on the trail, but must be kept on a leash. The trail begins at an elevation of 9,000 feet, with a net gain of nearly 800 feet. It is known to have some snow in the winter months. Being that Josh had been there in February, I would imagine that there was some snowpack present, but I was unable to find exactly how much there was on the trail that day. Some of the trail's highlights include the Lost Lake, which is a 1.4-mile one-way trail, and also the Devil's Thumb Lake, which is around 4.5 miles from the trailhead. This is important as Devil's Thumb Trail would play an important role in the search effort, but we'll get into this in a bit. Some of the other trails frequented by hikers in the area include the Woodland Lake Trail and also the King Lake Trail, all of which are accessible through Hesse. Let's go ahead and pull up some Google satellite images. The area itself is quite remote and surrounded by mountains and thick forest. To the north, there's Rocky Mountain National Park. To the east, we have Arapahoe and Roosevelt National Forests. And to the south, there's Grace Peak and Mount Evans. And if you drive 42 minutes to the east, you'll arrive in Boulder. So as you can see, the area is quite vast and consists primarily of dense forest and wilderness. So what exactly brought Josh to the area, and what were his plans? But before we address this, let's talk a little bit about him. The 27-year-old traveled to the area from Arvada, and according to his family, he intended to hike out to Devil's Thumb Lake with his medium-sized lab mix dog Happy. The 6'4", 200-pound outdoor enthusiast was in good mental and physical shape. He was last known to be wearing a green khaki jacket, dark hat, and a grayish-green backpack. It was unknown what exactly he had in that backpack, but he was known to carry supplies every time he went out. He also brought a cell phone, which would be an important clue later on during the search. Josh spent a lot of his free time outdoors taking Happy out for hikes. The two were inseparable, according to those who knew him. Despite the large media coverage of his disappearance, I was unable to find much of anything else about the man's personal life, and whether or not he'd been to the area on previous occasions. So let's go ahead and switch gears and talk about the search. Now I'm going to provide you with a timeline of events, as stated on the website themountaineer.com. And of course, I'll be sure to include a link to the source in the information below. According to investigators, Josh and his dog arrived at the Hesse Trailhead between 10:30 to 10:45 a.m. with the intention of returning to Arvada for a 5 p.m. online class that he had, and he had planned to leave the trail by 3:30 to 4 p.m. At around noon, his cell phone pinged, putting him in the vicinity of Devil's Thumb Lake Trail. A significant winter storm at the nearby Eldora Ski Resort was reported between 12:30 and 1:15 p.m., bringing with it whiteout and blizzard-like conditions, and also delivering several inches of snow in a short amount of time. As an experienced hiker with a pace between 3 to 4 miles per hour, Josh is believed to have been at Devil's Lake, or further east at the Continental Divide, when the weather struck, approximately 6 miles from the trailhead. Boulder County Sheriff's Office and the Rocky Mountain Rescue Group arrived at Hesse Trailhead that night to begin their search. For the next 3 days, from February 4th to the 7th, other teams would arrive to join in the effort, including search dogs, Forest Service personnel, and volunteers. The crews searched the lower levels of Devil's Thumb Lake Trail along the 4th of July Road, which is northeast of Hesse Trail, but no trace of him or his dog were found. At this point, search conditions worsened, causing unsafe winter conditions and low visibility for aerial support. The search would then be put on hold until February 10th. But on Thursday the 11th, his dog Happy was found alive at a location called Peak to Peak, near mile marker 40. This area is 7 to 9 miles away from both the Hesse and the Devil's Thumb Lake Trail, with no direct route. This, of course, reinvigorated search efforts, and they would set out to search the area in and around Peak to Peak. In all, over 70 professional search and rescue personnel, along with dozens of volunteers, would put in nearly 1,000 hours between Wednesday night and Saturday, unable to find any other sign of Josh. Secondary searches would continue in the days and weeks to come, but with volatile weather, depleting resources, and a total lack of clues, the official search would end in March of 2020. I wanted to steer back in the direction of Happy's condition when they found him, as this may give us an idea of what occurred out there. I was able to find a little bit more information on the CBS Denver website. It was stated by rescuers that Happy was found uninjured, minus a few scratches around his muzzle. He had lost 15 to 20 pounds and slept solid for the next few days upon being rescued. I believe Happy's weight loss and fatigue is consistent for the amount of time he was roaming the woods. But what was interesting was that he was found without his leash or collar. Now it's possible it may have come off on its own. But what if Josh removed it himself? Could he have used the leash as a tourniquet or something of that nature? Could Josh have gotten stuck or injured, thus releasing Happy to go get help? Well, whatever happened, I can't imagine the pain of becoming separated from man's best friend out there. The two were noted as being inseparable, and it must have taken something quite drastic or profound for this to occur. Now, if you're out in the wilderness, your dog is most likely your lifeline. They provide you not only with security and warmth, but companionship and the ability to find help in certain emergency situations. With this in mind, let's talk about what may have happened to Josh out there. Investigators stated that his phone pinged around noon, just a few hours after he entered the trail. Now, this could have been Josh calling or texting a family member. The cell phone ping occurred just shortly after the winter storm moved into the area. So could he have attempted to call someone when he realized he would be confronted with a powerful storm? Was Josh met with foul play or have some kind of medical emergency? Despite the major search effort, no clues supporting this scenario was found. Prior to the storm, searchers had a good 3 days to lock into the area where his phone pinged. Not only was Josh physically fit and experienced in the outdoors, but he came prepared for the hike, bringing extra food and water for him and his dog. So what the hell happened to him? Logic tells me that Josh most likely had an accident and became stuck. Happy most likely remained with Josh until he succumbed to either his injuries or to exposure from the cold temperatures that moved in with the storm. At that point, Happy may have realized he was now on his own and left the area. It's a sad situation to picture, but anything could have happened out there in that wilderness. And more often than not, it is the most common scenario when folks are eventually located, dead or alive. Now, it's also possible, but not probable, that Josh wanted to disappear, or just ended up getting lost. Now, I've covered too many cases of missing hikers who seem to vanish under the cover of a winter storm. I myself have been caught off guard by unpredictable weather, and I consider myself to be quite experienced. So you can never be too prepared out there. We should never give up hope, though. It's important to keep that candle of possibilities lit. Perhaps one day we'll know the truth about what happened, but until then, we can only speculate on what we do and don't know. If any new clues surface, I'll be sure to let you know. Thank you for joining me on this segment, and may we never forget the sad and strange disappearance of Josh Hall.